about the last 5 years or so, I have been berated by Auburn fans telling me that the Tigers are one of the best teams in the SEC, true SEC and national title contenders, and that I have no idea what I'm talking about. My numbers would beg to differ, as in 4 of the last 5 years, I have either correctly predicted Auburn's record or been off by just 1 game. My worst mark coming just last year, where I was a little bit higher on the Tigers, having them pegged at 7-5. That, of course, was not good enough for their fans, and they went 5-7. The Tigers are in a bit of a rough stretch. 4 straight losing seasons, looking to avoid their 5th straight losing season for the first time since 1946 to 1950. They have consistently, for the last 5-6 years, done less with more, because they've had talent, they just haven't been able to deliver. Now they have a lot of talent. This is a make or break year for Hugh Freeze. They have loads of talent coming in. He has to deliver. Are they a playoff contender? I don't think so. Are they an SEC title contender? I don't think so. But they should finish the year with a winning record. You take a look. Last year for Auburn, it was frustrating, right? 5-7. They lost 4 games when they were favored. They had 3 one-possession losses to California, Oklahoma, and Missouri. They were in the majority of the games they played, but couldn't find a way to eke out the wins, couldn't find a way to get to the postseason. A major issue last year for the Tigers, maybe a major reason for their struggles, was the offense. They didn't have great quarterback play. Peyton Thorne, Hank Brown really weren't getting the job done. Thorne ended up throwing for over 2,700 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions, but he is now gone, as is their 1,000-yard rusher, Jarquez Hunter. But they hit the portal hard, guys. Hugh Freeze went out there and delivered in the portal. He landed Jackson Arnold, the quarterback from Oklahoma, highly touted quarterback from Oklahoma, who really didn't pan out with the Sooners like we thought he would. He was supposed to be the future for the Sooners. Really wasn't that. Throwing for over 1,900 yards, 16 touchdowns, just 6 interceptions, and rushing for nearly 600 yards in his limited 2 years with the Sooners. So he's a guy that I think in the right offense with the right coaches, and I think Hugh Freeze does have the right offense, and certainly as an offensive mind is the right coach, I think Arnold can begin to thrive. A major reason he also struggled at Oklahoma was because his offensive line was horrendous. He took 34 sacks last year with the Sooners. That will not happen here at Auburn, as the Auburn offensive line now has over 140 combined starts up front. So a very strong offensive line that's going to be great in 2025. He's got great weapons at wide receiver. Cam Coleman returns, being the second leading receiver last year with nearly 600 yards and 8 touchdowns. Malcolm Simmons returns, the third wide receiver last year, 451 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then maybe the biggest get of all outside of Arnold, adding Eric Singleton from Georgia Tech. Highly touted wide receiver in the portal, had over 1,400 reception yards the last 2 years with the Yellow Jackets. So a phenomenal pickup. You've got competent quarterback play in theory. You've got really good wide receivers. You've got a really good offensive line. This Auburn offense should be pretty dang good. The defense, 6 starters are back after giving up just 21.3 points per game. That was a really good defense last year, kind of overshadowed by Auburn's struggles. Look, they had 7 losses. In only 3 of those 7 losses did their opponent eclipse 24 points. So again, that kind of shows how bad the offense was. 7 losses, only 3 of them, their opponent eclipsed 24 points. Only 1 time did their opponent eclipse 30 points. So 1 time did they allow over 30 points. I mean, this is a good Auburn defense. The offense just was not delivering for them. They do lose their top 4 tacklers from last year, but the secondary, to me, looking really, really strong on the Plains. Caleb Harris returns, Kayan Lee returns, Jay Crawford. The front 7 does have a handful of questions, but Keldrick Falk had 7 sacks last year. He's back on the defensive line. They add Caleb Wheatland in at linebacker from Maryland. It's really a matter of how quickly these transfers, especially in the front 7, gel for Auburn, because the secondary is looking really good. So how quickly do the transfers on the defensive line and the linebacking core and the young guys up front, how quickly do they come together? That will be the storyline to watch for Auburn's defense going forward. But this is a very, very good team across the board. They have the talent, just like they've had the last couple of years. It's just a matter of will it come together and translate to wins. Can Auburn get out of their own way and start racking up some wins? Take a look at the schedule. You will learn a lot about Auburn in Week 1 when they travel to Baylor. Friday night game in Week 1. I'm very, very excited for this game. This Baylor team is sneaky good, right? 18 starters are back, 10 on offense, 8 on defense. Really kind of hit their stride in the back half of last season. Sawyer Robertson returns as one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12. Their top 2 rushers return after averaging nearly 180 rushing yards per game. And I think Baylor wins this game because of their power on the running game and their power of their defense. Auburn gave up over 130 rushing yards in half of their games last year. Gave up at least 130 rushing yards in 6 of the 12 games they played. With Baylor's running backs returning, I think they're going to thrive there. The running game is going to set up the pass for Robertson, who has a very underrated wide receiver core, and the defense is very strong at all 3 levels. Factor in home field advantage, and what I think will be a close game, Baylor finds a way to get this win. And now the comments will roll, because I'm sure everybody's going to freak out saying there's no way Auburn loses this game, and I have no idea what I'm talking about. Maybe I don't. Maybe they don't lose to Baylor, but I believe right now they do. And again, the track record from the last 5 years would say otherwise. Ball State, South Alabama, both wins for the Tigers, 2-1 as they enter conference play. And this is where the season, of course, will be made. What a rough stretch to open up with, though. Their first 3 games in SEC play at Oklahoma, at Texas A&M. You get a bye week, and then you have to play Georgia. I mean, just a brutal, brutal way to kick off the season. I'll tell you right now, I don't think they win either of their games before the bye week. I don't think they're going to beat Oklahoma in the Jackson-Arnold reunion game, and I don't think they're going to beat A&M, especially in College Station. Oklahoma's the Jackson-Arnold reunion game, as we mentioned. Oklahoma won that game 27-21 on the Plains last year, thanks to a late 63-yard pick six. But the Sooners are too good now, guys. Everybody's going to base off what we saw last year. Oklahoma's got John Mateer coming in, a dangerous dual-threat quarterback who got his offensive coordinator to come in with him from Washington State. You've got Jaden Ott transferring in from California, one of the most underrated running backs in the country. Wasn't getting nearly enough attention because he played for California. They've got a very good wide receiver core, 8 starters back on defense. I like this Oklahoma team a lot. And now they have to go on the road to Norman for that game. I just don't like Auburn's odds there. Then you got to go on the road to A&M, who's going to have a very stingy defense again. Finally figured out their quarterback situation with Marcel Reed. You've got a very deep running back core. Casey Concepcion transfers in from NC State at wide receiver, becoming the wide receiver 1 for the Aggies. And the Aggies have a very, very good back 7. That linebacking core, that secondary, really, really good, making you wonder, can Jackson Arnold deliver in this type of environment? Will he be able to thrive against these 2 very good defenses? 3 of the first 5 games for Auburn are on the road against very quality opponents, and I think they lose all 3 of them. And I know they're going to, hate me for that and berate me for that, but I don't have faith in this Auburn team right now to go get the job done. These are not just cupcake teams. They're not going to Kentucky. They're not going to Mississippi State. They're going to Baylor, Oklahoma, and A&M, which are not easy environments at all. Maybe they can beat Baylor to be 3-2 heading into the bye week, but that's it. I don't think they beat either of those SEC teams. So 2-3 heading into the bye for Auburn. Things are not looking good for them. People are freaking out. They're upset. They're angry, and rightfully so. You come out of the bye week, you take on Georgia. Many would mark that up as a loss. The 130th meeting of the Deep South's oldest rivalry. They lost to the Bulldogs 31-13 last year. But I think they win. I know, go ahead, let the comments roll. Oh my God, how can we lose to Baylor but beat Georgia? You don't know what you're talking about. I've heard it all before. I've heard it a million times. That's the world of college football, right? We see this every year. How does one team beat an elite team one week and then lose to a crap team the next week and vice versa? It's college football, guys. And here's the logic behind this, right? Auburn's coming off a week of rest here. Their backs are against the wall. You can't afford to get to 2-4. You've got to find a way to beat Georgia here. Hugh Freeze needs a big signature win. And here's the thing. This is a night game at Jordan-Hare Stadium, right? A night game. Which I know, some doesn't mean anything. This is a huge deal. Getting Georgia off a week of rest at night. And Auburn has, again, the talent to win this game. Georgia's a good team. They're going to be one of the best in the SEC. We know that. But their toughest game prior to this is a road game at Tennessee. That's their toughest game prior to this. I'm going to tell you right now, I think a night game at Jordan-Hare Stadium is going to be tougher than Neyland Stadium in Week 3. I believe that. You got Gunnar Stockton, who, in theory, they should cruise past Tennessee for Georgia. Gunnar Stockton making his toughest opponent start in toughest environment on October 11th at Auburn. I think his Auburn defense is able to rattle him. I think his offense is able to hang with the Georgia defense that, once again, is going to be strong, but their weakest point is in the secondary. And I wonder, can that secondary hang with Jackson Arnold, who should be able to start finding his footing against this wide receiver core for Auburn that is going to get better and better with each passing week as they build more chemistry. And again, it's one of the better wide receiver units in this conference. The stars, to me, are aligning. And I tell you one thing, Auburn's got too much talent on the roster this year to not win a big game. And who are those big games? To me, it's Georgia, it's Alabama, maybe it's Baylor, Oklahoma A&M. But the 2 big home games they got, Georgia and Alabama, they're winning one of them. At least one of them. And I think it's going to be Georgia. So give me the win there for the Tigers. I know it sounds absurd to some, but I think it's the perfect storm brewing. I think they've got the home field advantage, the night game factoring in. It's a little bit more wild when that happens. The Georgia secondary not quite there. The Georgia offensive line has some questions. Only 35 starts back on the offensive line for the Bulldogs. Maybe this Auburn defensive line figures things out. It's able to generate a little bit more pressure on Stockton and shut down the run game. It's lining up to me to be a perfect storm. At 2-3, Auburn's going to be a lot better than that record shows coming into that Georgia game. They get a signature win. They're 3-3, and then guess what? They win their next 5 because the schedule lightens up significantly. I mean, look at that. Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mercer. None of those teams really strike fear into me if I'm Auburn. They should cruise past Missouri, who they should have beat last year, right? They should have beat them last year. They up 17-3 in the second half last year, ended up losing 21-17, but now you've got them at home. Can't afford the letdown game, but you've got them at home against a Missouri team that's going to be worse this year than they were. A good team last year. They lose a lot, so they're going to take a little bit of a step back. They're going to win that game. Then you go to Arkansas. Auburn hasn't lost to Arkansas since what, 2015? They pretty much own Arkansas and Fayetteville despite losing a handful of games to the Hogs in Auburn, including last year when they lost to Arkansas 24-14. Certainly a trap game if you want to call it that. Arkansas's got talent. Again, they beat Auburn last year, but I don't have faith in the Razorbacks' defensive line. I don't think they're going to be able to generate much pressure at all with this strong Auburn offensive line. Taylon Green needs to have better pocket awareness and make better decisions. He can't do everything by himself. This Auburn team's going to continue to play with more and more confidence. Fayetteville's not really the most difficult place to play. It really isn't. They don't really defend their home field very well. So I like Auburn here. I like Auburn to defeat the Hogs. It's probably, to me, the toughest game in the next 5 after the Georgia game. It's probably going to be on the road at Arkansas, and I think they're able to beat the Hogs there. They're going to cruise past Kentucky, who they beat by 14 last year, and the Wildcats going to be one of the worst teams in the SEC this year. I think Hugh Freeze finally beats Diego Pavia in his final year of eligibility. He finds a way to beat the quarterback that he's been unable to defeat. Lost to him when he was the head coach at Liberty, and Pavia was at New Mexico State. Lost to him when Pavia was still at New Mexico State at Auburn just a few years ago. And then last year, Auburn did lose to Vanderbilt in Pavia 17-7. So Hugh Freeze has lost 3 straight games to Diego Pavia. I think that streak finally ends now. I don't see an Auburn team that's riding the high at 6-3 falling short now at Vanderbilt, who is very, very experienced on both sides of the ball. But again, doesn't really have a strong home field advantage. Auburn kind of out for a revenge here. The offense going to be able to move the ball significantly better than they were last year. Again, maybe a trap game, maybe a game they cannot afford to overlook, certainly. But I do think they're able to win that game. 7-3, bye week, Mercer, 8-3, then the Iron Bowl against Alabama at Jordan-Hare Stadium, where Auburn typically plays Alabama very well. When the game's in Tuscaloosa, Alabama takes pretty good care of business, but crazy things happen at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Auburn, though, has not defeated Alabama since 2019. They've lost 5 straight Iron Bowls. They've lost some heartbreakers in there, too. 4th and 31, anybody? I don't think they're going to be able to beat Alabama this year. I know a lot of people are going to point to that and go, oh, well, they've got, a new quarterback. Jalen Milroe's not there. They weren't that good last year, all those things. I've heard it all before. Again, by this point in the year, Alabama's quarterback situation will have been fixed. I believe it's going to be Ty Simpson. I think he's going to do very well, and their top 2 receivers do return. They're going to be great on offense. The defense, even better. 8 starters back, loaded at all 3 levels. I don't have faith in Jackson Arnold delivering here in this spot. Alabama probably fighting for a playoff berth, everything on the line for them. Auburn just playing for pride. Even if they were to beat Alabama, all they would get was a 9-3 record, probably not going to be good enough to get them to the playoff. And we've seen teams flirt with that, and maybe they could with what would that be, 7 straight wins to end the year? Maybe they could flirt with a playoff berth. The committee would take that into consideration. I just don't think so. I think Alabama's defense is too good here. Their secondary is elite, one of the best in the nation. They're going to shut down these Auburn receivers. It will be close, just like it typically is on the Plains. It will be close, but Alabama gets the win for their 6th straight Iron Bowl victory, and Auburn finished the year at 8-4, 5-3 in conference play. Again, Auburn has, for us, for the last 5 years, pretty much met expectations. We have been on the right side of our Auburn prediction for a long while now. Fans do need to be more realistic. I do not think this is a team that is going to win 10 or 11 games. I think 9 wins is maybe their ceiling. I really do. I think 9-3 is probably the best case scenario for Auburn this year. Maybe you don't think they lose to Baylor. Everything else goes their way, 9-3. Maybe you think they beat Baylor but lose to Georgia. The record still stays the same for us at 8-4. I think anything less than 8 wins would be considered a major disappointment. This team's got talent. I think Hugh Freeze is a good coach. So with the additions they brought into the transfer portal, the guys they've got coming back, the coaching staff they've put together, this is the year that Auburn needs to break through, if you will. But the breakthrough is not going to be an SEC title. It's not going to be a college football playoff berth. It's going to be a winning season where they avoid they avoid a 5th straight losing season. They get a winning season, they get a solid bowl berth, and they continue to build for the future. Maybe 2026 is that year they really, really do break through. But 8-4 for the Auburn Tigers, no more than 9-3 for us this year. They get a signature win over Georgia. They go on a massive winning streak in the middle of the season. To me, consider it a success, but I'm sure for many fans, they'll consider this a disappointment and consider us to say that we don't know what we're talking about. But again, history would beg to differ. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our expert picks, home to our weekly newsletters, home to tons of exclusive content that you do not want to miss. Go check it out. The link for it down in the description below. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.